Sometimes I feel like I'm two different players. One, the one who sees everything clearly, who connects roads, cities, and fields with impeccable strategic vision. And the other, who doesn't even notice the tiles going by, who makes rushed decisions, who forgets to count how many are left to draw, who plays as if they've forgotten everything they've already learned. If this sounds familiar, you're not alone. Because the hardest part of competitive Carcassonne isn't knowing more. It's remembering what matters when it counts. And that's why I'm creating something. I don't know yet if it'll be a guide, a downloadable resource, a video series, or a mix of everything. But I want it to be useful, specific, and applicable. Something that helps you stop relying on streaks, moods, or strokes of luck. Something that brings you back to focus, to the essence of the game. But to make that happen, I need your help. Tell me what you'd like to find in it. Message me on Telegram, WhatsApp, Instagram, or reply to the email if you're subscribed. What would truly help you grow in competitive Carcassonne? No need to write an essay. One sentence is enough. I'm always reading.
Dear Meeple Podcast listeners, starting today, this channel, and also our international channel, is sponsored by The Secret Tile.
Welcome to Meeple Podcast, English version, Season 1.
What is the Carcassonne Champions League? In a 3-episode series, I present a journey through this new competition that began in 2023, led by Sergey Zakharenko. With a titanic effort, he has launched one of the most complex individual competitions currently existing for the game Carcassonne in an online format. It is held on Board Game Arena and features the best players from the international community. We'll see how it is structured and have the opportunity to discover what Sergey Zakharenko on BGA envisioned before launching this event, which so far has only had 2 editions. Let's remember that the first was won by Vladimir Kovalev, world champion in 2016, whom we've already interviewed twice on this channel. You know, the famous Someone You Know, and this year the title went to Alexey Pegushev, a talented player known for his YouTube channel where he creates content about Carcassonne and to whom many of us have a special fondness. In this series of episodes, we will also hear from Alexey, as well as get the opinion of Otto Ikonnen, Nallerheim on BGA, who has also strongly supported this tournament. But for this first episode of the series, we're going to go back in time. We have the invaluable contribution of the French player SirMadnessTV, creator of the first version of the Carcassonne Champions League in 2021. I'll leave you now with his contribution to this episode, and as always, thank you for your loyalty to the channel. Thanks for being here.
Et salut aux auditeurs de Meeple Podcast, ici SirMadness des chaînes Twitch et YouTube SirMadnessTV et du COP France de Carcassonne sur BGA.
Greetings to the listeners of Meeple Podcast. This is Sir Madness from the Twitch and YouTube channels SirMadnessTV and a member of the Carcassonne France community on BGA. In real life, I'm a freelance community manager and I was invited by the POC to answer a few questions about the Carcassonne Champions League. A project I created in 2021 after the World Cup, which I paused for a while and resumed last year. This idea didn't come out of nowhere. Before getting into streaming, I was always connected to the world of competitive video games, both as a player and an organizer. In fact, I created a multi-gaming tournament website that gathered over 1,000 players from around the world, in games like Trackmania, FIFA, or Quake. It was kind of like BGA, but totally amateur. I had to shut it down to look for a real job. Also, I've always been passionate about soccer and sports in general. Years later, I returned to the gaming world through Blood Bowl 2 and launched my Twitch and YouTube channels to support an academy and league project aimed at training and integrating new players. During the official World Cup, some leagues, including mine, were contacted by the publisher to qualify players. But it was a one-off event, not even annual, and many small leagues weren't represented. So I decided to create a Champions League to give them visibility. I also wanted to regularly showcase high-level matches on YouTube in French and use those videos as educational material to discuss strategy, among other things. Over time, I began presenting other games on the channel and organizing new tournaments. One of them was a monthly Carcassonne tournament, which we played on the Steam version at the time. Since we had a group of regular players, I suggested organizing a friendly match against another team. And that's how I met some Brazilian players who told me about BGA to prepare a friendly France versus Brazil match. I didn't know about BGA at the time, and that was my first contact with this community. That's where I found out that a World Cup was being organized. Since in 2021 there was no French team registered, and Valdric, the 2020 captain, wasn't available, I decided to step in at the last minute, just 2 weeks before registration closed, with the players I had available and with Viv from BGA. It was a way to support the players and also record international matches. For those who want to watch them, I've shared the link to those recordings on YouTube with the POC. For the following edition, I wanted everything to be less improvised and for more French players to have access to the national team, avoiding it becoming a closed group. For that, I needed a clear structure and some communication. Seeing the level of the World Cup, it was also clear that the team needed preparation. So I created the Carcassonne France project with an annual championship and a group of motivated players contributing ideas to improve the team's performance. As a complement, we needed high-level matches without having to wait for team tournaments, and with more control than on Arena. So I launched a new competition designed exactly for that. During that World Cup, I also noticed that Carcassonne players on BGA were eager to participate in tournaments and events. There are many opens, like King of Carcassonne, which I find very interesting, but I wanted to try something different. A Champions League. Since the format didn't interfere with the existing ones, I began shaping it. Each community has different expectations, resources, and needs. That's where my community manager side kicked in. I needed a format that would highlight the champions, but also be accessible to everyone, even players unfamiliar with BGA. Since there weren't as many national structures back then as there are now, it wasn't possible to set up a qualification system by delegations. To control the number of players, I didn't want an open format like BGA's, which I find too impersonal, nor a Swiss system, which I dislike for several reasons. For example, the possibility of intentionally losing the first match to manipulate pairings. I preferred small groups where each player could have visibility, followed by playoffs with the most consistent and motivated. So this Champions League was, to me, almost a necessity. I added one key improvement, allowing an unlimited number of players, but giving the tournament a more special character than just a regular open. Also, players love representing their country, and this format allowed for that, even though it was an individual tournament. I found it ideal to combine the model of the Football Champions League with a World Super Cup bringing together each league's winners. All that was left was to unite it into a single tournament. The POC asked me why I didn't continue with the Champions League the following year. And the truth is, I would have loved to, but I was organizing everything by myself. Between tournaments and other games, streams, and the growth of Carcassonne France, restarting the Champions League was too much. I had to prioritize. I focused on the essentials to support the team for the World and European Championships. The Champions League, although a beautiful project, was secondary. And honestly, seeing the good results of the French team lately, I think I made the right choice. Nowadays, there are great players around Viv, and the last World Cup was a total success. Hopefully the team maintains that consistency and why not? Wins the World Cup soon. Another question Deepak asked was whether I had anything to do with the current version of the Champions League created by Zaharik on Carcassonne.gg. Absolutely not. In fact, I didn't know someone had resumed the project until our captain, Squalus, told me Viv was going to play a final against someone you know. I was quite surprised, so I checked out the website and thought it was very well done. I sent them an email with the link to the 2021 recordings and offered my help if they needed anything, but there was no further contact. As for the current format, I think it's very well thought out. It's based on the football model backed by national structures that are now much more established, ideal for this type of tournament. It's true that the open-to-all aspect is a bit lost, but every organizer has their own methods and goals, and that's perfectly fine. I also want to say I'm really happy to see the enthusiasm of this community for all the projects being proposed. I'm glad to know that the foundations we all laid haven't been forgotten, but are being used and improved. The community continues to grow, so I wish the best to those who keep bringing in new ideas and opening the game up to more players. I think I've said everything now. I just want to thank Squalus, Blitz, and Lahache, who've helped me a lot with Carcassonne France by managing the team over the years. Also Carcassonne Central, which at the time offered a premium account for the 2021 Champions League and promoted the tournament, with special thanks to Danis for his support. Carcassonne Brazil, which welcomed me into the BGA community. And all those players who, behind the scenes, now organize national qualifiers or opens. These people give so much without asking for anything in return, and thanks to them, international projects exist. And lastly, thanks to the POC for this opportunity to chat with you. I mentioned earlier the bricks being laid, and this podcast is one more. I hope everything goes great in this new edition and in the upcoming tournaments. Enjoy the game.
This channel is sponsored by The Secret Tile.